Good news, my fellow conservatives and libertarians. A new Gallup poll shows that a solid majority of Americans believe that the federal government is just too big and too powerful. So now what? I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta, and here to answer that question and more, my Trifecta partners in crime, Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. All right, gents, would you believe that 54% of Americans think Washington has grown too big, and then another 36% think that it has about the right amount of power? So that's a total of 90% of Americans who think that Washington is either too big or just right. Now, there's only 8% who said Washington needs more power. We've got them beat 11-1. So why is it that the 8% get their way, Bill?
Well, I think you could take pretty reasonable guess at any kind of statistical analysis of any large group of people. You're going to find 8% of them are clinically insane. I don't think that's going to be a great mystery to anybody. I'm more worried about the 30% that think it's about the right size. Can't blame those people, though, Steve, because the fact of the matter is no one's ever made the case for smaller government. We rail against big government. We talk about how bad it is and how evil it is. We talk about how we want to see less of it, but we never present alternatives on why less government works better. And when you're never going to win this argument until you can start showing why local health care works better, local education works better. You have to make the case for things being better. You can't just criticize it being bad.
That is a sublime point, which actually leads right into my next question for Scott. Scott, you just won an election last week. Congratulations, by the way, my friend. And you ran, that's right, a big round for Scott. You ran on small government principles. So what is it you know about running a campaign that our friends at the RNC don't?
Well, I think Bill brings up an excellent point, which is when we say smaller government or less government, nobody really knows what that means. I mean, it's not just that we haven't made the case for it. I don't think that there's general agreement within the Republican Party, within the conservative movement, as to what exactly it would mean if we had smaller government. How small would you like it? County government right now has a little over 2,000 employees. Would you be happy with 200 employees? Would you believe 900 employees? Nobody really has an idea of what that means. And so what we talked about in our campaign was that we want to focus county government on the things that county government must do, but not everything that a politician could dream that it might do. And so to do that, we need to do a top-to-bottom review of what's happening now and say, is this something we statutorily required to do? If so, how can we do it efficiently and effectively? If not, how can we move it into the private sector?
And when you say how small a government would I like, the answer is I would like a government the size that eventually, someday, science will discover a means of detecting it. All right, folks, I'd like to ask a little something of those 8% who think Washington doesn't have enough power. Sorry about that. You know, Washington now sets the school curriculum you'll take as a child. Washington determines how much of your adult life you'll have to spend paying back the loans on the college degree that Washington made so expensive to obtain. They'll tell you what health insurance you must buy. They'll tell you what it must cover. They'll determine whether the business you want to start can get any credit. Then they'll tax the bejeebus out of you if you beat all the regulatory hurdles and somehow make a success out of it. And then you'll spend your retirement on a shrinking Social Security check waiting for a doctor who will still accept the Medicaid you're required to use until you pass away, waiting for government approval of the treatment you need. So my question is, what the hell is wrong with you people? For Scott Ott and Bill Whittle, I'm Steve Green.